In this video, I'll show you how to make a no-filter underwater ecosystem for some stunning cherry shrimp. I'll take you through the entire build process and even show you how it looks after 130 days of growth. This here is a 20cm cube aquarium. They're quite cheap to get hold of and make a great home for small shrimp. The first thing that I'm going to do is get a background installed on the back panel of glass. After cleaning the glass, I'm giving it a light spray and then placing on the background. I'm using window film, but if you're on a budget, you can simply tape on some white paper. After squidging out all the water and trimming off the excess, the background is done, so let's move on to the lighting. I'm going to place on this small LED light. This tank will be sitting on a rack under an LED strip light, so this light is just for the purpose of the build, although it would work great for this size tank. With the boring steps complete, let's start creating this shrimp ecosystem. The first layer to go in is the nutrient layer. This is some regular garden compost and it's absolutely packed with nutrients. You don't need too much, especially in a small tank like this one, and just a fine coating will work perfectly. Next, I'm giving it a good spray down with water and then capping it off with some sand. It's really important to cover up the nutrient layer because if you don't, the nutrients will leach out into the water column and cause some serious algae issues. I've gradually sloped up the sand towards the back of the aquarium, which will help create some depth. The other day I was in my local fish shop and I saw this piece of spiderwood and couldn't help but buy it. This is one of those rare occasions where the hardscape is pretty much complete right away. I absolutely love how it sits in the tank and it really does fit perfectly. One thing that I do need to add is a few of these black lava rocks. Although these will add some detail, their main function is to keep the wood down and to stop it from floating up once the tank's filled up with water. I've managed to wedge this one right in the spiderwood and then I'll add a few more in the front. As with any hardscape, it's all about personal preference. The main thing is that you come up with something that you like and that you think looks good. At the end of the day, it's your tank, so that's all that really matters. I think that'll do it for this hardscape, and I'm very happy with how it's looking. Now it's about time to start getting some plants inside. As this is a low-tech setup, I like to stick with the plants that I know are going to grow well, as that's going to overall benefit the ecosystem. I made this no-filter shrimp bowl a good few months ago and it really has been thriving. To save on some money, I'm going to take some cuttings from here that I can use inside my new setup. As you can see, it can certainly use a slight trim back. The plant that I'm after is this pearlweed that's growing in the background. I love its small, delicate leaves and I think it will fit the scale of the Nano cube perfectly. Before planting, I'm going to spray the tank with water to get the sand fully saturated. I find it easier to plant in sand that's nice and damp instead of it being dry. Doing it like this will also stop the plants from drying out so fast. I'm clumping a good number of stems together and then pushing them right down into the sand. Don't be afraid to plant them deep, as this will stop them from coming out too easily and get them closer to the nutrients at the base. With some time, these stems should grow nice and tall to fill out the background. Now let's move on to the foreground as it's looking really quite empty. I want this area to be fully carpeted, and I think there's no better choice than some hairgrass. I've removed them from their pots and given them a good wash. Now I'm tearing them into lots of smaller chunks, ready to be planted. I was planning on planting both pots, but this here is just one pot's worth, which I think will be enough for this small tank. If you wanted to, you can split them down even further, and one pot will carpet a much larger area than you might think. In this case, the tank is really quite small, so I'm planting them nice and dense. To bring a bit more detail and interest to the carpet, I'm going to plant in some glossostigma. The variation in leaf shape and texture will help the carpet look more wild and natural. In a low-tech, no-filter setup like this one, you do want to be planting as dense as you can. This is because the plants are what keep the water clean. The more you have at the start, the better chances you've got of avoiding algae and having a healthier tank in general. Aquatic plants are prone to drying out, so a light spray down every now and then really is essential. Next, I'm going to plant in some crypt parva. This is a very small species of crypt that I think will fit the scale of this tank nicely. Next, I want to plant in some epiphytes. I've got this clump of Bucephalandra as well as some Anubias, of course. These can easily be planted in by simply wedging them in gaps and cracks throughout the scape. It's really important not to plant them into the substrate, as this will cause them to rot and die. The other plants will get their nutrients from the compost at the base, but these will pull their nutrients from the water column. That's the planting complete, and I don't know about you, but I think it's looking great. Now it's time to get the tank filled up with water. This paper towel will help disperse the water and stop it from disrupting the sand or uprooting the plants. With that being said, you've still got to be cautious and fill it up very slowly. I think this Nano cube is looking amazing right now, and I think it'll only look better and better as it grows in. But unfortunately, things don't always go to plan. Here we are 1 month later, and the tank is not really looking how I hoped it would. There is new growth from a lot of the plants, but with that said, there's a lot of algae as well as some plants that simply haven't made it. Although the Anubias is covered in algae, it is doing well, but it's a shame the same can't be said about the Bucephalandra. The majority has melted away, and I'm not sure it's going to be able to bounce back. Despite this tank looking like a toxic wasteland, this is normal and expected in a new setup. If you look carefully on the glass, you can see that the tank is filled with detritus worms. These worms are completely normal and healthy, but their numbers inside this tank are a bit excessive. The reason for their high population is a mix of decaying organic matter as well as this just being a new tank that's trying to find its balance. One thing this tank is certainly in need of is a bit of maintenance. To start off, I'm going to try and remove as much algae as I can from the glass as well as the wood and even the plants. I've found that the most useful tool for this is a toothbrush. Next, I'm going to trim back some of the glossostigma in the foreground as it's starting to grow a bit tall and leggy. After cutting them back, I'm replanting each and every stem back down into the foreground. By doing this, you'll achieve a denser, more filled in look in a quicker time frame. The other plant that needs a bit of a trim is the pearlweed. It's almost reaching the top of the water, so I'm going to give them a trim and then replant the stems. To finish off the maintenance, I'm going to do a quick water change. I'm draining roughly 30% and then I'm going to fill it up with some fresh clean water. At the moment I'm doing a water change every 3 or 4 days, but with time I'll stretch that out to once a month or so. As soon as this tank finds its balance, it will be time to add the shrimp, so let's leave it for another few weeks. It's been a good few weeks later, and as you can see, the tank has really started to find its balance. The algae is almost completely gone, and the plants are looking a lot more green and vibrant. There is still a bit of algae on the wood, but I'm confident that'll clean up once I add the inhabitants. The pearlweed in the back is doing really well, and it's created the dense green background that I was hoping for. As for the carpet, it's filling in nicely, but there is still a few patches here and there. Now I think this nano ecosystem is certainly at the stage where I can add some life. I'm going to add a small group of these red cherry shrimp. I think their deep red coloration will pop out nicely on the vibrant green plants. My goal is to get them breeding to produce a successful colony, but for now let's get these guys acclimated. I'm temperature acclimating them whilst at the same time using a pipette to introduce some of the tank's water into their water. I'll repeat this process every 5 minutes or so over the course of half an hour to get them nice and adjusted to the conditions. As there's only a small number of them, I'm not going to have to feed them whatsoever. This is because there's enough natural food such as algae and biofilm that they can enjoy. Since the last update, I've moved house and created my very own ecosystem room. I think this cube aquarium fits perfectly on the nano rack, and luckily it was pretty straightforward to move over and there was no problems whatsoever. After filling the tank up, I took a close look inside and I've spotted something really quite exciting. There's not one, but 2 shrimp carrying tons of tiny eggs. This is so exciting to see, as it truly means they're thriving inside this ecosystem. All I've got to do now is sit back and wait for them to hatch. This nano ecosystem is now over 4 months old and it's looking better than ever. There's not a spot of algae in sight, and as for the health of the plants, I think they truly speak for themselves. I must admit the foreground is a bit overgrown, so I'm going to cut back and pull out a few plants so we can get a better look inside. With a handful of plants pulled out, I think that's looking much better. Now let's answer the question that I'm sure you're wondering. Have the baby shrimp hatched? Well, a week or so ago I was looking inside the tank and I spotted some microscopic baby shrimp. They were really hard to see at first, but once I found one, I kept seeing more and more. It's so relaxing and rewarding to sit back and watch these tiny creatures go about their day. As there's no predators inside this tank, the survival rate of these shrimp is going to be incredibly high. As I've got plenty of other tanks, I can always move some over, but if you're trying this yourself, it is something to keep in mind. I'm extremely happy with how this ecosystem's turned out, and it really has been a joy to follow its journey over the past 130 days. I really hope you found this video useful and maybe even decide to try making something like this yourself. If you enjoyed this video, why not check out this one next, where I show you how to make a shallow pond aquarium fully from scratch.